Welcome back to the On the Island Health Series with Miskawaan Health Group. And I'm David Bohm. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Miskawaan Health Group, together with our medical director and my co-founder, Dr. Johannes Wesley. Today, I'm going to tell you a bit about a personal journey I had, just to give you some significance about the importance of a strong immune system. As we all know, the coronavirus is ravaging the world. Sadly, the world has been shut down by the coronavirus, and the people who have been impacted the most are those with a compromised immune system. So we've heard a lot about the immune system, calming, balancing, stabilizing your immune system. It's critically important that your immune system is in the right place, always, to prevent any kinds of disease, infection, and things like COVID-2019. So I was listening to some podcasts about the impact of COVID-2019 on the health of some of the people who were affected, and they said that what often happened was that the biggest impact, the biggest negative impact for the people who were affected by this insidious virus was those whose immune system went into overdrive when they got the virus, because the immune system didn't really know exactly what was going on in the body and tried to attack everything at the same time, which led to compromising the various organs of the body. So it's not just people talk about boosting your immune system, but actually it's better to talk about stabilizing, calming, and balancing your immune system, because that's what you want to have to be able to be strong in this world of viruses and pollutants and toxins and chemicals. We're bombarded by this every day. So here at Miskawaan Health Group, one of our specialities is to calm, balance, and stabilize your immune system. And I'll tell you my personal journey as to why this is so important. So last year in December, I was in Paris, in France, with my wife, and we had a trip there, and it was just before Christmas, December 19, and I woke up and I had a terrible fever. And I know if I'm sick because I have no appetite. So I woke up, I had zero appetite and a shocking fever, and fortunately it was before the time of coronavirus, otherwise I would have thought immediately coronavirus. But the doctor came to the hotel and he diagnosed a bacterial infection and gave me antibiotics and Panadol, paracetamol, and some aspirin. I just felt so sick. I don't like taking antibiotics, but I was so sick and I was traveling the next week, so I thought, okay, I'll take these drugs that the doctor gave me. So the next day, I felt even worse, still no appetite. So another doctor came along over to the hotel and he said, no, same thing, bacterial infection, keep taking the antibiotics and the paracetamol and the aspirin. And it's kind of strange that doctors do prescribe antibiotics when you have a fever, because 90% of the time they're caused by viruses, not by a bacterial infection. And of course, as you know, antibiotics don't work against viruses. So anyway, it then became the Sunday, and I still was feeling not better at all, still no appetite. And so I rang my co-founder, Dr. Wesley, who happened to be in Thailand, in Bangkok. And I said, Dr. Wesley, these are my symptoms, this is what I'm taking. He said, look, stop all medication and you better come back here pretty quickly and we'll see what's going on. So the next day, my wife and I flew back from Paris to Bangkok. It was the 23rd of December. We arrived in Bangkok on the 24th of December. Of course, flying, more dehydration, and it made me feel even worse. In fact, I didn't tell my wife, but when I went to the bathroom on the flight, I'd been to the toilet, was washing my hands, and next thing I knew, I was on the floor. So I'd passed out in the bathroom on the aircraft. I don't know how long I was out for, but that's just to show you how sick I was. I don't faint ordinarily. So we arrived in Bangkok on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve, went straight to the clinic, and there Dr. Wesley and our Thai doctors, Dr. Emmy, Dr. Eki, and Dr. Jimmy were there to greet me, and they started me immediately on a course of infusions. Now, those of you who know our company well, we know we have our own proprietary infusions, and Dr. Wesley and our Thai doctors are experts at finding the right combination of the infusions for the people who are our customers. And because I've been a long-time client of Dr. Wesley, more than 8 years, they knew my body very, very well. They knew what I tolerated well and what would be effective for me with this terrible fever and poor condition. They didn't know at the time what it was. None of us knew, but they did some tests. The tests will come back a few days later, but they knew that it was highly likely to be a virus infection, and that these infusions could be very effective in treating whatever it was that I had. And they also tested my platelet count. When I arrived in the clinic, my blood platelet count was like 25,000, when it should be more like 350,000. So I heard since that time that if you're in a hospital and your blood platelet count goes below 30,000, they put you in the ICU. So I was a pretty sick boy. So that day I think I had about 8 hours of infusions. That was Christmas Eve, as I mentioned. And even by that afternoon, you could say the same afternoon, for the first time in about a week, I felt like eating something, so I had a bit of Thai salad. And I went home that night. I slept very, very well in my own bed in my Bangkok apartment, probably 12 hours, 11, 13 hours. Came back the next morning to the clinic and started the next round of infusions. And that probably took another 8 hours. I had about 12 infusions on the second day, which actually was Christmas Day. Fortunately for me, Christmas is not a celebrated holiday in Thailand, so the clinic was open to receive my treatment. And I did have more appetite that day. I didn't have any turkey or anything like that for Christmas dinner, but I think I had some soup. And so that was Christmas Day. I was already starting to feel a lot better. And then on the Thursday, which is in Australia we call Boxing Day, December 26th, we got the news that what I had was dengue fever. So dengue fever is a mosquito-borne tropical disease, and those of us who live in Southeast Asia most of the time, it's something you can pick up, and in fact, this was my second infection. And those of you who know about dengue fever, they know that having it a second time is significantly worse, much more impactful on your body than having it just once. So it was my second bout with dengue fever. But by the time we knew that, I'd already started to feel a lot better. On the Thursday, the 26th of December, I really had a lot of my appetite back. I was sleeping very well because I was going home every day after the infusions, and my platelet count was starting to creep up. So ordinarily, if you get dengue fever here in Thailand or anywhere else in Southeast Asia or anywhere in the world, the protocol is go to the hospital. You probably have to spend 10 days in hospital, and they just put you on a saline drip because the biggest risk is dehydration. So the problem is you're in the hospital, it's noisy, you don't sleep so well, you're not happy because you're in the hospital. I was much benefited by the fact I could go home every night, sleep in my own bed, get a really good night's sleep. And I wasn't just taking a saline drip. I was taking, yes, a saline drip to keep my hydration up, but all the infusions that we use, things like Dr. Wesley's Immune Boost, things like curcumin, all these extra infusions were helping me recover, helping my body recover much more quickly than ordinarily that would be the case. And then the next day on the Friday, I came back for another round of infusions, and I was feeling well enough that afternoon, and this was, remember, just a few days after arriving in Bangkok. As Dr. Wesley told me later on death's doorstep, I was well enough to have some business meetings, and then that night on the Friday, I went out with some friends and had dinner at a Thai restaurant, and I wouldn't say it was back to normal, but pretty much back to normal. So how is this relevant to an immune system? So because, as I mentioned, I've been a client, a patient of Dr. Wesley for more than 8 years, my immune system is calm, it's stable, and it's balanced. I'm not a young man, I'm 63 years old. I presented in such a weakened and poor condition to the clinic on December 24. Because my immune system was so strong, I managed to fight not just the infection, but what compounded it was the drugs I was taking, because antibiotics and paracetamol, and in particular aspirin, was absolutely the worst thing that I could have with dengue fever. Now, I don't blame the French doctors because they thought they were doing the best thing for me. They didn't know I had dengue fever, but the drugs they gave me, in particular the aspirin, which reduces your platelet count and the same as dengue fever does, that's why I presented to the clinic with such a low platelet count. And as you know, platelets is your blood clotting factor, so you need that. So I was at extreme risk of internal bleeding. And of course, you know, I was so sick I didn't know what was going on. When I arrived at Bangkok airport, I must have looked so weak and so shocking. My wife absolutely insisted that I take a wheelchair to immigration. And she probably was right. I probably couldn't have gone and walked that distance from the flight to the immigration myself. I would have had to need the help like a wheelchair. I never thought I'd see the day that I'll be wheeled through Bangkok airport, but that's what happened. So the fact that I had dengue fever, that I was treated with the wrong drugs, the drugs that compounded the impact of the dengue fever, and Dr. Wesley told me later, he didn't tell me that when I was ill, but he told me later that if I hadn't have had that strong immune system, then I probably would have died. And if I hadn't have gone back to Bangkok, I would have become weaker and weaker. My platelet count would have gone lower and lower. I would have gone to the hospital and I would have died of internal bleeding, because they don't generally know about dengue fever in France and they don't know how to treat it. So literally having this immune system built by Miskawaan Health Group, built by Dr. Wesley, it literally saved my life, and all my doctors told me about this sometime later once I'd fully recovered. The recovery time was quite extraordinary. Most people I've spoken to who've had dengue fever just once, I've had it twice, remember, it takes them at least 3 months to get back to normality. Myself, I was back in the gym in a couple of weeks, I was back running in a few weeks, and my life was completely back to normal within a month. And that was without having to go to hospital. My treatment regimen lasted 4 days. And so it shows a couple of things that's interesting about Miskawaan Health Group. The importance, as I mentioned, of building a strong, calm, stable, balanced immune system and having the right treatments. And that's what we do at Miskawaan Health Group. So I hope you enjoyed my personal story today. As always, we love to hear your comments. Please go to our website, www.miskawaanhealth.com. You can contact me personally through that website. I'm happy to answer any questions about what we just talked about today or any matter concerning health. Our doctors are there, ready to answer your questions about health. And we look forward to seeing you again on the Island series from Miskawaan Luxury Beachfront Villas here on the tropical island of Koh Samui. Thank you so much.